All right, welcome back to the live California weather forecast. First thing you might be wondering is why am I starting off the video showing you a blank map? And it's because I think this sums up the forecast for the next 3 days. This map right here is showing the current hazards in California. And as you can see, got no warnings, got no hazards, so that's some good news there, and I believe that good news is just going to continue over the next 3 days, as we're most likely just going to be able to enjoy some nice warm, sunny, classic springtime weather. Now, with that being said, there are some interesting things going on in the forecast, so we certainly have plenty of interesting topics to cover throughout this video. One last thing I'll remind you of is if you're watching this live, you can post your questions or forecast requests into the live chat, and then stay tuned for the end of the forecast where I'll try my best to answer any questions that you might have. So, quick summary. No current hazards. The reason for that is the high pressure system that continues to move over California. You can actually see the effect that's having when it comes to our visible satellite and the clouds over the state. You can see over the majority of the state, there are absolutely no clouds. Maybe a couple high clouds coming in to Northern California and Southern California here, but for the most part, clear skies, although you do notice all those clouds sitting just off the coast. That's another big part of the forecast today, is that marine layer is going to continue to deepen, keeping our coastal cities much cooler than the valleys, which are about 20 to 25 degrees above average. So if you want to see that another way, what's driving that current weather that we just saw, it's this high pressure system really has been coming in over the last 3 days, and you can see it's peaking throughout the day today. So that's why our temperature is going to be warmer today than yesterday. But then as we click into Thursday, you see a low pressure system start to move in. So we're actually going to start to work into a cooling trend come Thursday and Friday. You can actually see that low pressure system come in. Looks like it hits Washington Friday afternoon. Now, that could bring some rain up here in Washington, but unfortunately, California is missing out on any rain with that one. What we will get, though, are some cooling temperatures, which should be nice because it's actually going to be pretty hot today, especially if you're in the valley. You might not think it's going to be a nice, sunny, warm day. You might think it's too hot because there are some places that are going to be 25, 30 degrees above average. The good news is, as that low pressure system moves through Thursday and Friday, it'll bring some cooling temperatures to California, and it'll also bring some onshore winds to the coast, which will push in some of that cool air as well. So that's the big story. We got warming temperatures throughout the day today as that ridge peaks, but then we have cooling temperatures Thursday and Friday as that low comes in. So we can actually look at the temperature anomalies across the state. That's basically just a fancy way of saying how far off of the average are your temperatures. So it's May 5th today. This is saying that typically on May 5th, this area up here near Redding is 25 degrees cooler. Or today, we're 25 degrees above average than what it should be today. That's a much more concise way to say it. So as we get into this afternoon, you can see that's actually going to strengthen. That gets to 20 to even 30 degrees above average in the Sacramento Valley. Similar story for the San Joaquin Valley, getting 20 to 25 degrees above average. Now what you notice though is that the temperatures along the coast are still warm, still above average, but they're much more moderate than the extremely warm valley. The reason for that is as that low starts to creep in towards the end of the day today, the onshore winds are going to pick up and push some of that cooler ocean air into our coastal cities. So we can actually see the effects in the overall temperature anomalies, or how far off we are from our average. As we look at Thursday afternoon, you can see valley still warm. You're still 15 to 20 degrees above average in both Sacramento and San Joaquin Valley. But for the most part, the temperatures are coming down, and you can really see it starting to push into the north coast up here, actually getting to below average temperatures on Thursday afternoon. Then if we look at Friday, that trend continues as we actually have some parts of the state that are working 10 degrees below average, and especially along the coast where those onshore winds will be picking up. So if we want to actually see what temperatures we're going to be dealing with, I always think it's helpful to identify the trend by looking at the high temperatures yesterday. So high temps yesterday, Sacramento hit 90, Chico, you're 88, Santa Rosa 79, San Francisco 63. So if we go forward to your high temperatures today, there's some interesting things going on here. So much of the valley is looking warmer. Sacramento, Yuba City, Chico, you're up into the mid 90s. But then San Francisco is actually getting cooler. That at first glance doesn't make a lot of sense. Why is the valley getting up almost into the triple digits when San Francisco is cooling? And that has to do with the onshore winds that are already starting to pick up as that low begins to work its way into the region. So that's taking this cooler ocean air. You can actually see it's cooler. It's that yellow color, which is around 50 degrees, and it's blowing it into San Francisco, cooling down the temperatures there. And that's what's just going to continue to happen as we get into Thursday. Those winds pick up, keeping San Francisco in the low 60s, but then some of that cooler air even starts to stretch all the way into places like San Jose and Santa Rosa. And then you notice the valley cools back down into the mid to high 80s as well on Thursday. We'll just take a quick look at Friday. It looks like that cooling trend, it's about the same as Thursday. Much of the valley in the low to mid 80s. San Francisco still hovering in that low to mid 60s region. So a better way to see what I've been talking about along the coast is looking at the satellite imagery. You can see that marine layer, all those clouds just hanging out right along the coast here. And if you look at the high clouds, you notice they're moving west to east. Well, that same thing is going to start happening with this cool marine layer that's going to start pushing in and bring some low clouds and some fog into our coastal cities. How I can say that is by looking at the winds right here. So if we zoom in to the Bay Area, watch what right now we have pretty much no winds whatsoever. It's very weak. This is looking at wind gusts. It's showing 10 miles per hour, which means the sustained wind is 2 miles per hour. But as we click throughout the day today, let's make sure we're on temperature here, because I want to show, actually we'll go humidity. That shows the moisture really flowing in a lot better. So as we get into this afternoon today, what you notice are these winds start to blow onshore. You can really see that if we zoom into San Francisco here, blowing from the ocean over San Francisco. And you can see it better if I click back here. Notice how there's lots of dry air. Danville's 82 degrees, San Jose 79. As I click through here, that onshore flow spreads out that moisture and brings San Jose down to 59 degrees by the time we get into the overnight hours tonight. Much of the East Bay in the low 50s as well. So it's that onshore flow bringing that moisture and those cooler temperatures into our coastal cities. Now, unfortunately, that's not able to work its way into the valley yet. But as that trough moves in, we should have some cooling temperatures into the valley getting into Thursday and Friday. It's still looking dry though, but temperatures should at least come down from the mid 90s back down into the mid 80s, which is a bit more comfortable for parts of the valley. So similar story going on in Southern California. We've got that ridge building in, maxing out today, which is causing the warming trend to continue. Our warmest day of the week should be today, as we have some temperatures 15 to 25 degrees above average in Southern California as well. But similar story, as this low pressure system starts to move in Thursday and Friday, that's going to bring some cooler temperatures to Southern California, and it's also going to promote that onshore flow that will bring some cooler temperatures deep in the marine layer and really cool down our coastal cities. So if we look at the high temperatures from yesterday, you can see Bakersfield hit 92, Los Angeles was in the upper 70s, San Diego 64. If we go to the high temperatures this afternoon, you can see that warming trend coming in. Bakersfield actually expected to get into the triple digits. Santa Maria, you're in the mid 70s, should be a beautiful day there. Los Angeles almost hitting 80 degrees, should be a nice day there as well. Although I will say in LA today, you're actually expecting to get a little drizzle in the next 40 to 50 minutes as that marine layer hangs out over the region. So overall though, warm temperatures in Southern California throughout the day today. Bakersfield possibly even getting into the triple digits. If we look at tomorrow, you can see that cooling trend really starting to come in. As that trough starts to work its way in Thursday and Friday, that brings our temperatures back down at least a few degrees. I'd say it's still warm. We're still going to be 10 to 15 degrees above average, but at least not 20 to 30 degrees above average. High temperatures on Thursday, Bakersfield, mid-90s, Los Angeles, in the low to mid-70s. San Diego, you've been getting that marine layer all week, so still 62 degrees down there. And then on Friday, that's going to continue. Relatively similar temperatures on Friday before the warming trend comes back in towards the start of next week. Towards the start of next week, temperatures will be picking back up, so we'll be following that over the next few days. So a better way to see that marine layer aspect I've been talking about is looking at the satellite imagery, and you can see that marine layer is stretching all the way into our coastal cities. That's why places like Los Angeles might actually get some drizzle in the next 30 minutes to the next hour. If you're from Los Angeles or any of those coastal cities and watching this live stream, let me know in the live chat if you're experiencing some drizzle right now or just what the conditions are like outside. So the key takeaway from looking at this satellite imagery, clear skies throughout almost all of Southern California. Like I said, for most people, it's going to be a beautiful warm day today, Thursday and Friday. But in your coastal cities, as that marine layer and those clouds continue to develop, and then that onshore flow picks up, you'll actually have some clouds, some fog, and some cooler temperatures. Again, the best way to see that is by looking at the winds throughout the day today. Now, if we look into this afternoon, this might, at first glance, this might cause some concern for fire. You look at places like San Bernardino, some locations where we often see Santa Ana winds and dangerous fire threats. You notice that we're in the mid to high 80s, possibly even getting into the 90s in some location, and we have some winds getting up to 32 mile per hour wind gusts. So your first thought might be, oh, there might be some fire danger going on today. But if you actually look at what direction these winds are coming from, you notice that they're coming from the ocean. So at the times when you have the greatest fire danger in Southern California, that's when you have winds coming from the north or the northeast, because that's taking your temperatures in the valleys that are in the 90s to possibly even triple digits and blowing them down the hills. That creates your fire danger because it's blowing in warm, dry air. When you get winds coming from the ocean, that's blowing in moist, cooler air, and you can actually see the effect of that if we change to humidity here. So right there, you can actually see the effect this has as this onshore flow comes in. It has the coastal cities in the mid-60s, even though just inland, you're in the mid-80s. And then as that onshore flow picks up over the next few days, that just continues to push that moisture and those cooler temperatures farther inland. So overall, I'd say it's a great day today. We don't have any hazards whatsoever, no warnings. Most cities are just going to be sunny and warm. And if today is a bit too warm for you, especially if you're living in the valleys and you're getting up into the mid-90s or possibly triple digits, the good news is that Thursday and Friday, we're going to have a little bit of a cooling trend. So Thursday and Friday should be a nice little break from the extremely warm temperatures if you're not a fan of that kind of weather. Now, with that being said, I would say that Thursday and Friday, if you need to think about anything, it could be a great time to start actually preparing for the wildfire season because those temperatures are going to be cooling down a little bit. So I made the mistake last year of waiting until it was the fires had already started to do any fire clearing, and it was miserable. It was raining ash. It was over 100 degrees, and that certainly makes already difficult work much more difficult. So over the next 2 days, as our temperatures start to come down a little bit, could be a good time to start clearing the debris and the vegetation around your house. If you're interested in the best ways of doing that, you can go to readyforwildfire.org, where I placed the link in the description. And I just got all my fire clearing done this last Sunday. I would definitely suggest you do the same before it gets too hot, before we're in the middle of summer. So I think we got a question here in the live chat. I think that was basically our summary for the video, and we could start to answer some questions. We have a question from Jennifer. It says, any chance of rain for California? Will this year's fire season be the same as last year? So, two terrific questions right there. I'll answer the second one first. So, there's three things that I think about when trying to identify if this fire season is going to be worst. The first one that I think about is what's going on with the California drought. So if we look at the drought monitor, this basically sums it up right here. The majority of the state is in severe or extreme drought, and that's because we only got about 50% of the rainfall we were supposed to pick up this year. And rainfall and drought conditions and fuel moisture are rather critical when it comes to wildfire, because if your fuels are dry, it's going to be much easier for a fire to start, and then once a fire does start, it's much easier for that fire to spread. So on one hand, I would say that's certainly concerning. The fact that we didn't pick up all that much rainfall, much of the state is in severe or extreme drought, that's certainly not good news. If I had to make a prediction though, I would say that this next fire season is not going to be as bad as last fire season. The reason I'm saying that, even though you might think everything I just said would go against that prediction, last fire season was extremely weird. The fact that we picked up, it basically started with that giant lightning event that caused 500 fires, or even more than 500 fires, to pop up and down the state. Now, because all of those fires started at the exact same time, that really made conditions difficult for CAL FIRE. It's hard to focus your resources on a fire when there's 500 fires going on. So that allowed a lot of those fires to just completely grow out of hand. And that's why we had 4 million acres burned last year. In fact, if we look at the CAL FIRE website, you can look at the stats, and you'll notice that out of the top 20 largest California wildfires, the majority of them, or at least in the top 6, in the top 6, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those fires were in 2020, and almost all of those were burning at the same time. So basically that overwhelmed our resources and made it much harder to control any of those fires. Now, why that makes me predict a better fire season this year is because that was a very strange, weird, rare event, all that lightning that caused those fires in the first place. So I don't think that lightning event is going to happen again this year. So I don't think we're going to have 600 fires all start at the same time. So I don't think we're going to have 4 million acres burn like we had last year. Again, that's just my prediction, but I think it's a good outlook because it's tempting sometimes to just be all doom and gloom, but we got through last year, and we'll be able to get through this next year as well. So, that's a good point. Somebody said, I hear a lot of people's wells are running dry or very low. That is actually something I want to focus on in possibly even a future video, the groundwater concerns in California. It actually comes back to the drought we were just looking at. I think if I just go back a couple pages here, we should get to it. So when you don't have a lot of water in your reservoirs and you don't have a lot of water in your snowpack, I did a video on this earlier. Is updating forecast for the California drought. I can add a card so that you can just instantly click on that video if you're interested in seeing it. But I basically go over the fact that a lot of the reservoirs are running low right now. The snowpack was only about 75% of what it should be. And what that means is there's just less water for all the things that we need water for. Drinking, whatever you can think of. there's less water than we typically have on an average year. So because of that, we have to rely on groundwater more. And then the more you rely on groundwater, the further down that groundwater goes, which makes so basically, it's easier to explain this if you think of an example. If your well goes down 150 feet and the groundwater table is at 100 feet, but then because of a drought, you have to pull more and more and more water out of the ground, and then it goes down to 160 feet, now that groundwater is below your well, so you're not actually getting any water. And unfortunately, the groundwater table is a bit slower to recover than we would certainly like. So that is a great comment and something that I should actually put a full video together, because I've started to do a little research about that problem, and it seems like it's certainly a big issue going on in the Central Valley, and something that I should definitely focus on in a future video, because that could be one of the more important things affecting California over the next few months. So if anybody else has any questions, you could post them in the live chat. I will take this second to answer one question yesterday that I did not know the answer to. So somebody asked me how El Nino affects temperatures, and I've done all my research just in fire weather and meteorology, which is the day-to-day weather. I honestly haven't looked into climate things all that much, just because there's only so much you can look into at a time. So I did look into that question, and it turns out with El Nino, you get super warm surface. You get a super warm ocean right off of the coast of California here. So it actually ties in perfectly to a lot of the things we're talking about today, where you can actually see how, if you look at the nighttime hours, that onshore flow takes those cooler ocean temperatures, blows it into the coast. We were just talking about that. So during El Nino, you actually get warmer ocean temperatures. So it makes sense that as you get winds that blow that wind from the ocean onto the land, that is actually going to lead to some warmer temperatures on the land. Now, the exact opposite happens during La Nina. You get cooler temperatures off the coast here, so then you're blowing in cooler temperatures, and then I think the question also asked how that affects the drought. And basically, if you have warmer temperatures, there's going to be more evaporation, so then you're going to have less water, and then it wouldn't cause your drought, but it would certainly exaggerate any drought that's already in place. So hopefully that answered the question from yesterday. I believe it was asked by someone named Steven. I'll have to double check and make sure that was the right name, but hopefully that answered it, and hopefully Steven is watching right now, and even more hopefully that is actually the person's name who asked that question. So hopefully that was helpful. Not seeing any other questions pop up in the live chat, so I think I'll wrap it up there. I'll be back tomorrow to go over the forecast for those cooling temperatures that should be coming in Thursday and Friday. So hope everybody had a great day and you enjoyed the nice, sunny, warm weather that we're going to be having over the next 3 days. Thanks for watching.